Hello, I'm Matt, and I'm excited because we've got our first ever guest on the Security Breakdown, Ric from Pinnacle. Hello, Ric.
Hello, how are you doing?
Yeah, very well, thank you.
Excellent, excellent. Well, I have only come over for the sausages though.
Well, yeah, absolutely. The last time you were here, I said on your way back, you had to go to a certain butcher's and get the sausage, and you did, didn't you?
Yes, they were excellent. I took some back for me and for a friend and my mate who's a big sausage fan. Well, that sounds a little bit dodgy actually. Likes a good sausage. That sounds even worse.
Yeah.
He's had some of the best sausages he's ever had.
Perfect.
Anyway, stopped one on my way down as before I got here. So
very good, yeah. Very good. So actually the reason you are here genuinely is because on our last podcast we were talking about standards. We've been saying from the start that we want people onto the show. And it was more or less a chance encounter at an awards. Was it Fire and Security Matters?
Yes, yeah.
So the awards there had been a beer involved, I'll be honest.
Yeah, there was a few. Yeah. It was early on though, so the rum hadn't come out at that stage.
But we got chatting about particular issues around standards and standardisations. And I said, hey, we've just done a podcast exactly about this. Would you come on it? And here you are.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's an interesting subject, the whole regs. Like I said on the last podcast, they're important. They have to be around, but they can be quite difficult to navigate, which is what we're finding.
Well, that's exactly it, and that was sort of the nature of our conversation. We were chatting about. I mean, you're right at the bleeding edge of innovation because you're a software developer. Mm-hmm. So in fact, just briefly tell us what your solution is.
Yeah, so we're an integration platform. We've got a new term for a centralized platform for integration monitoring. And that's it. We pull everyone's nice solutions together: intruder systems, access control, fog generators, all into one place. We have an on-site solution which has got mapping and camera controls and all the usual stuff. But we also have a cloud portal which lifts data up and control it to the cloud. So when people have got multiple properties, they just go to one place for all their systems. So it's very new, very innovative, but we've got to the bit about arming and controlling intruder alarms, and it's got a little bit grey. Yeah,
and that was the conversation we were having because you were saying that in the software space, basically, in development of that, you're always going to be at like the bleeding edge of what's possible because your clients will say to you, wouldn't it be great if we could just, for instance, remote set, remote unset, or any manner of different requests that you may get. And because of that sort of bleeding edge leading stuff, you're going to come across things that may or may not be covered by standards.
Yes, yeah, and the thing with software, anything's possible. So someone said, can you do this? I mean, yes, it is 100% possible. And I'm quite a techie geek, so I'd want to do it, but I've been in the industry for 22 years, I've been on the tools, I've been out there commissioning systems, I've done inspections, I know all this is around, and most people we show the system to, one of the big questions that come up is, this is great, can we arm this thing remotely, can we reset it remotely? I'm saying, technically it's possible, but we're just navigating the very murky water around regs to be able to do this, so it's on the roadmap, I just can't promise when it's going to be.
Yeah.
So we've reached out to NSI and SSIB, and they've kind of said, well, we can't really consult, it needs to be impartial, which we totally understand it. They said we need to go meet some consultants, so we're looking at that. But one thing that's been great with what we've been doing in the industry is the support for manufacturing, yourself included on this. So like when we've been doing integrations, Orasec was great, for example.
Yeah.
Their integration, it worked, but they didn't give us everything we needed, like entry, exit, fail to arm, and we went back to them and they changed integration for us, which is fantastic. We're now looking to do this arming thing, and because NSI and SSIB can't help in manner of need, then I've reached out to Texacom, for example, and I've got a meeting next week to speak to their compliance guys, so there's definitely loads of support around it all. But like end users want to do this, but it's the integrators that are getting a little bit nervous about it because ultimately it's their responsibility, isn't it?
Yeah.
They need to install this thing, sign off this thing. It impacts insurance, and that's where it gets a little bit iffy for us.
Yeah, that's something that we've had experience of in the past, especially with something like security fog. So back in the day, sort of 20, 30 years ago when it first started, obviously there was no standards for security fog because it was brand new. And it's difficult then for the integrators to understand, well, how do we work with this? Do we work with this?
Yeah.
And from their perspective, the thing that they'll be most worried about is getting a non-compliance or a non-conformity on one of their inspections. So you can understand it. But where it's I wouldn't say grey, it's where it's not well understood by industry. If a standard does cover off, for instance, your topic, how to then implement it. And then that's where it starts getting tricky for people like you, isn't it? Who you're the innovators, you want to write things in the right way, but where to get the advice. And you almost want something in black and white that just says, this is the position and this is how to do it. You know?
Yeah, it'd be nice if prescriptive, but unfortunately it isn't.
Yeah, I suppose that's the other thing as well. We talked about how standards are created on the last podcast, and Jack, who was with me, his opinion was, it's a bunch of guys in a room who are essentially developing the standard, and that's actually more or less pretty much what it is. So it's not the practical application side of things that are done. It's people with a lot of knowledge, but they're doing it in a sealed environment rather than a hands-on type thing.
Yeah, and I suppose with that, it's like anything. You can get a plan together, and you write, oh yeah, that sounds great, but then you actually bring in the practicality of it all. It's always got to change slightly, and I think that's probably what's happening with the regs. And like with software is actually quite unregulated.
Yeah.
The regs and everything talk about the hardware mainly rather than the software. So I might be shooting myself in the foot here, but actually there might actually be a need for more regulation in the software world for controlling these systems, because if not, people could get rogue. Obviously we're trying to do the right thing, but the way software works, you can pretty much do whatever you want with it.
Yeah.
So having some control in with that, we did actually approach the Secure by Design, who don't actually do anything with hardware, and asked whether they wanted to look at us maybe doing a use case. So progressing something like that, we'd be well up for this, because I want to drive innovation, but then I want to do things right as well. Because I'm a bit of a perfectionist. Well, not a bit. I'm a perfectionist, and I want people to be safe, want to be more secure, and I want to drive innovation as well.
Well, that makes total sense, and I think that's again. I think you've pretty much hit on what happens in the real world, in as much as when, for instance, the 50131 suite that we referenced in the last thing was written originally, and bear in mind they're reviewed every 5 years to bring it up to date. But when it was originally created, the use of building management systems or piece, it didn't exist.
No.
So it's very hard for it to cover those things off, because it wasn't written around those things. And it's only since technology has moved on, software's become more accessible, the sort of software industry's sort of grown out and started to address security, that these things have started to come in, and customers then start asking things like, can we remotely set and unset?
Yes.
And then doing that in line with regs, when it's not written around that, is tricky.
Yeah, I mean, I think mobile apps probably started to pave the way a little bit, because when they first came out, it was like, oh, no, you can't do that. Whereas now, most things got some kind of app, haven't they, or a web interface or something. So it is starting to get there. But I think for me, the main thing around the arming it's the police, the false alarms, like which you touched on last week. If someone could just sit there blatantly just arming things, and it's set, and it starts getting confirmed alarm, they got a URL, and then the police are coming out. So look, totally get it, but. As we mentioned before, in our software, we know when a partition's ready to arm, and we could quite easily put a timer in saying, well, you can't arm it for 5 minutes. We can do outputs off the back of it, so when things are starting to arm, we can issue PA warnings to within the building. So there's definitely it's definitely enough to do within the technology to actually make it work. It's just, it'd be great. What I'm looking for now is some guidance to actually get this thing done. Get it done right, and just actually give what end users want, but also give the integrators that peace of mind that using this technology, and even being brave and using a new piece of technology, is okay. Because if not, we're just going to be standing still, aren't we?
Well, this is the thing, and I think this is something that, if anyone's watching the podcast that has got actually relevant experience, watching or listening, I should say, relevant experience in what Ric's trying to do, they are looking for guidance in that area right now around remote set, And this was the kind of question we were trying to ask ourselves in the last episode, which is, for a new entrant to the market who's got the right intentions, wants to do the right thing, it can be daunting to look at, because just in the EN 50131 suite, there's 13 plus parts, So, and reading through and then getting the interpretation exactly right, because the way these things are written is important. The words that are used must, should, or, and then understanding how it applies to what you do. It's like, is there nobody that can just tell us what to do?
Well, I think the big word there is the interpretation. Because my interpretation might be different from someone else's. Within our company, there's 12 of us. And I'm the only one who's got a reasonable. I don't know them inside and out, but everyone else is more from a software background. So trying to give the M5031, the DD243, or it's changed now. Is it 7243?
Yeah, probably.
Something like that. But if I gave them to Stuart, our CTO, he'd be like,
"Well, what do I do with this?"
Yeah, well, exactly. What does all this mean? But then, from the integrator's point of view, we actually had one sort of push back on it, and quite rightly so. And they said, "Look, we're all up for this," but they were looking at the access levels and things like that, and they've raised questions around it all. And again, look, we fully support it, and we've gone back and said, "Look, yes, we get this, and we're trying to do it all, but." I think with the regs, you can laser in on certain bits of it, but kind of ignore other bits, which is where this kind of comes down to how things are inspected as well. It's not like inspections are random; you can kind of be picked out and things like that. So I think, especially with inspectors as well, the inspector could come and look at a job, but he could fail you on just one small point that he's lasering on, rather than just looking at it as a round. So it's. This is why I'm saying it's a very murky area.
Yeah, well, there's a specific part of our very niche part of standardisation. So for FOG, it's 50131 Part 8, and we came up against this where and this is what I don't know if you saw in the last podcast. I dried up and forgot what I was talking about. It came back to me afterwards, as these things always do. It's like sit, but I was going to say that. And it's around vibration testing of the fog generator. So there's a physical test that gets conducted. We'll put some footage in this so you can see what it looks like. You won't be able to hear, unfortunately. But the fog generator goes through an operational test where it's attached to a vibration plate, and then it goes from, I think it's like 0 kilohertz to 150 kilohertz in a cycle up and down while it's turned on for 2 hours in that direction. So up and down, left and right, forwards and backwards. And it goes through that cycle for 2 hours while it's turned on, and then at the end it cannot display a fault and it must operate perfectly. Wow. And then it is the endurance test where it's turned off, and the same test is repeated for 8 hours. So it's a very, very destructive test. Yeah. Now, if you imagine in a fog generator, there's a big lump of steel or aluminium or something similar, so they're quite heavy items in there, and these things are getting shaken. And I was thinking, what is this testing? Yeah. What is it for? What is it going to, what benefit is it going to give anyone? Because for those things to happen to a generator, it'd need to be in 1,000 earthquakes a year or something crazy. And is that really going to happen? As it turned out, in the working group of people who were revising the standard, I flagged the question, and nobody knew what it was for. It's because it's in the 50131 suite generally for all components. Fog generators have to pass it too. And we asked the question, but why? And there was an answer, and I'm sorry to say I can't remember what it was, probably because I didn't really understand it. And this is after 30 years of working with this gear. So it's the same is true along, amongst a bunch of different stuff. So as innovators in a field, sometimes you look at things and go, why is this written this way? Yeah. And maybe it was written for something that was true 5 years ago or 10 years ago or whatever. Has that been sort of your experience as well when you're looking at these things?
It's I think with also with software, there's no real tests for it. So with hardware, I suppose you can do all these physical tests and tamper tests and things like that, whereas software, you can't, because this is like virtual world. I can get into the cyber aspects of it if you
I guess that's probably the more important stuff for you is, are we safe from being hacked, or is our data safe? Is our customers' data safe? Yeah. And what can we do around that? So I guess pen testing and stuff like that's going to be your
the whole cyber thing. But even in this world, which is very new to me, there's sort of the security regulations I kind of know. The software world, it's just as bizarre. So there's pen testing, which you go through, but then you'd think it costs a lot of money to do all the pen testing, and you think at the end of it, a bit like the British Reg, you get a certificate saying you've been tested. Here you go. Yeah. There's none of that. Nothing.
No. And there's nothing demanding you do it either. Is that right? Is it your own peace of mind, or
it's more the end users really? Yeah. So the end users say you've got to be Cyber Essential, Cyber Essential Plus. Yeah. There's ISO
27001.
Yeah. So we're doing all the Cyber Essential works now. Doing all the pen testing, but again, when I first went to it, so I've got to pay you £5,000 a quarter, but I don't get a certificate to say you've been pen tested. No, we don't get anything like that. But again, I think it's a liability thing.
Yeah,
because
they
if
want
they
to put
say
their head
you're
above the parapets, and then you get hacked.
Yes, exactly, yeah. So if you've got a certificate saying, yeah, you're cyber secure, you get hacked, someone's going to get sued.
So this is another example where better regulation would actually serve you.
Yes,
Because
100%.
if you could say, well, look, industry has decided that this is current, this will give current protection against the current known threats out there, with an understanding that cyber doesn't stand still.
Yeah.
Then at least you can do as much as you know is possible to do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the software companies are doing it. Cyber Essential is fairly common. Like Gallagher very good on their cyber. So they've got Crips, I think it's called.
I've not come across it.
Yeah, it's like that's like one of the top tier sort of cyber security things. But then, as far as I'm aware, within the regs, there's nothing to say your software elements got to comply to certain cyber.
I don't think so either. Again, you would probably know better than me, and if you don't know, then I'm a bit behind on that.
Yeah, I think it's a crossover between the hardware and the software, but I think the regs more focus on the hardware aspect of it all. But now, like VMSs and things like that, that's just software, and then because you either got a PSIM, you've got or you got a VMS running your front end, or you've got access control.
PSIM would be Physical Security Information Management System. VMS, Video Management System.
Yeah, and then you've got the access control solutions like Gallagher, who've got the front end, but that's where people are interfacing it all. But that's, if you think about it from a cyber point of view, if someone gets into that software, they can unlock doors, they can disarm things, you can do all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
And this is why we're trying to get into
Operations 11 style stuff, isn't it?
Oh God, 100%. It's like what we're building with our software is a full integrated solution for buildings, so security, environmental, IoT, BMS, everything. So this is why we're taking it very seriously, because if someone gets into our system, then they can pretty much do whatever they want.
Yeah.
So this is why all our authentication is done through Microsoft Azure. We're taking the pen testing very seriously. But again, circling back around again, there's no regs around it all for security.
There's nothing driving you to do it other than your own peace of mind for your clients. Yeah,
exactly.
Those are the sort of things. So it's a if only there was a way to fast track these things, because I know that in order to get that position changed, what you'd have to do is go and petition a particular technical committee in the standards world and say, can you issue a new work instruction? Can you get a new working group pulled together to look at this? And the process takes years. Oh
God, yeah. It's like secure by design. Yeah, it's brilliant for the hardware kind of thing. But even if they expanded into software or another kind of thing, specifically for security industry, because it's security, but it's that crossover with safety as well. So you're talking about safety and security. So it should be regulated, because if people aren't looking to do the right thing, then it ends up doing the wrong thing, which is obviously it's bad for everyone, really. So it's I've been in the security game for I've been in security now for 20 odd years, but I've been in software for 2 years. I'm kind of on this learning curve of it all, but taking my security background, and like I said last time, there should be regs. 100% there should be regs, because a lot of cowboys out there, and when things go wrong, it's like I say, it's safety and security getting risk.
That's the idea of standardisation, is to give that comfort to the consumer, because they can't be expected to be experts. So experts must be brought together to look at these things. But I think the original question we had between ourselves in our own company was, how does it take on board look at AI. It's gone from nowhere to, oh my God, where's it going to stop, sort of thing.
Yeah, that needs regulation quick.
Right. So there's things like that, things like even in a less rapidly evolving curve, like things like facial recognition, where no one thought to write a standard for something that didn't exist, because why would you? And then standardisation has got to catch up, which is something that you said to me. By its very nature, standardisation is always going to lag behind innovation, because there's no other way to do it. But then when you've got clients who are going, well, the technology's there and the capability's there, why can't I use it? Or what can I do? It must be really frustrating.
Yeah, it's the amount of people are asking for these things, and when I've got to say, look, yes, we're thinking eyes on a robot, but I need to go and do a lot of digging around it all. It's just, it's frustrating, but I respect it. But it would be nice if there was a go-to place and someone can kind of put the balls on the line and say, yes, this will be fine. But I doubt I'd ever find that. It's just more of if there's some kind of committee and you can just kind of get a yes, that feels all right.
Well, just from our experience, the British Standards Institute would be a place to have a look, for sure.
Right, okay.
And I can at least introduce you to a few people who will
fantastic,
network you further. I suspect that you kind of need someone who's specialist in software and security. So that's the appeal part of this. It's anyone out there that's got some guidance for Ric, I'm sure you'd love to.
Oh God, yeah, 100%,
100%,
yeah.
And we'd love to hear more thoughts as well about the whole innovation versus regulation piece.
Yeah, and it'd be good to hear from integrators as well.
Yeah,
what's the day? Do they want to embrace change, or are they too scared to risk it, kind of thing? Because it's I've always been a bit of a risk taker, but I like to push myself, push boundaries of technology. But I know some people don't like to do that. So it would be interesting to sort of hear back from integrators. Which camp are you in? Are you in the look, let's try it, let's see what we can do with it, or if no, I'll take a risk, I'm going to kind of stick to what I know. It'd be quite handy for my business as well, actually. I think most people spoke, like TSE was fantastic. The amount of people who spoke at TSE, they were really, really open, and sort of the feedback we got on our product was fantastic. Manufacturers as well, they're very open and they're very appreciative of what we're doing. So I feel there'd be quite a strong camp of people saying, yes, let's try and drive this innovation forward. But then it's just, they're concerned about the risk because of the insurance thing and these regs things.
It's always going to be a bit of a balance, I think, isn't it? Because without those risk takers and those innovators, security fog wouldn't exist, AI wouldn't exist, facial recognition, forget it, any of that stuff just wouldn't be done.
Yeah.
And then I suppose it's just that how can we follow it up quickly and well with standardisation for things that are sticking and people want. Because I can see a case for remote set and unset. Operationally, it would make a difference to lots and lots of people if that could be put in place easily and well. But I have heard in the past, people within the industry saying things like, "Not on my watch, it'll never happen." And and I think this should be a balance, hasn't it, between what's reasonable risk management and what is cowboyish and just rushing forward before things are ready for it,
Yeah, I think that potentially the other thing as well that sort of just cropped into my mind then is a lot of integrations are always we kind of got to do it. Like a VMS or an access control system will write integration because you kind of got to do it. Whereas us, we're an integration company. So our job is to write integration. So actually it may be that, like with Orisec, for example, it's only us that have ever gone, hang on a minute, it's not doing this. So maybe it needs someone like us to be doing things better.
Drive things forward.
Drive things forward, do things better, ask the questions, go back to manufacturers. We are forging great relationships with manufacturers to do this kind of stuff. And from what we've seen so far, they're all open to it and helping to improve, because by helping improve that, improves the industry, improves their product, improves our products, and just improves it all around, really. So hopefully, we'd never know, it might be the thing that changes it all.
I think I could see you actually being that. So I hope that does happen, that you end up being the catalyst for change, so that the stuff that we know hasn't got good regulation around it actually drives forward to good regulation. But also, in the software world, regulation that's able to be agile and adapt to something that goes so fast.
100%.
And I think on that note, it's been fascinating having you on the podcast. Thank you for joining us.
It's been a pleasure.
And I think we'll sign off there.
Cool, excellent. Thanks a lot.
Cool.
Cheers.
Thanks for listening, guys. Bye.
See you later.